Hey MCE crew, do you know that even if you don't have student loan debt forgiveness could benefit you economically? We're going to do a deep dive into that. Go ahead, just hit like. It's really easy. Hit the subscribe button, also easy. In fact, I think that's easier. And then I want you to hit the share button as well. Share this with your friends, family. Share it with an enemy, and they won't be your enemy anymore. They will love you for sharing this content with them. So what I want to get into is student loan debt forgiveness. There's some happenings going on Capitol Hill that we're going to talk about. And I understand that there are moral arguments on both sides here. Let me preface this by saying I don't have student debt, so I don't have a dog in the fight. But I do know that there are people that say, well, look, how is it fair to forgive student debt when you've got this person over here, someone like me, who paid their loan off? What do they get? Well, we may get a boom in the economy if this thing would structure it right, if they did forgive it. So I understand that argument, I definitely understand it. And then there's another argument that says that, what about the guy or girl who enrolls in college next year after the debt forgiveness is done? What do they get? Do they get loan forgiveness? So it's a thorny issue. Okay. I don't know if it will happen, but I do know one thing. If it does happen, it will benefit the economy. Okay. I will guarantee you that. Moral arguments aside. So let's get into this article from the Business Insider, and then we'll talk more about exactly how this could benefit the economy. 4 House Republicans oppose mass student debt cancellation, saying it's unfair. They want to promise it won't happen. Okay, that sounds a little Pollyanna-ish to me. I think it's unfair, and we want to promise. Okay, well, let's see how that works out. 4 House Republicans asked Education Secretary Cardona to oppose mass student debt cancellation. Oh, canceling $50,000 in student debt for every borrower. That's what Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer have been advocating. And they want President Joe Biden to do it via executive action. 4 House Republicans argue that it would be an affront, and they would only support cancellation within what the law clearly allows. See, here's the thing. They're all lawmakers, so when they talk about what the law allows, it's kind of a tricky subject, because they just change the law if enough of them decide that's what they want to do. The problem is that lawmakers and experts disagree on what the law does allow. Republican Representatives Ted Budd of North Carolina, Warren Davidson of Ohio, and Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, and Barry Loudermilk of Georgia, they wrote a letter to Education Secretary Miguel Cardona on Wednesday requesting he commit to not canceling student debt broadly by executive action. They wrote that Congress has provided limited and explicit authority to the Education Secretary to cancel student debt in certain circumstances, but not the authority to do that for all student loan balances. So apparently the Education Secretary has some power to make this happen to a debatable extent right now. But I'm curious, and I don't know the answer to this. I do know that the president recently canceled student debt for certain disabled people, which gives me the impression that he could do the same for everybody else if he wanted to by executive action. Okay, keep in mind that 92% of all student debt is owed to the government. The remaining 8% is private institutions, but the majority of that which is owed to the government. So that's where we get this debate about whether or not it should be forgiven. It's not like they're saying that they should just, write something off from a private institution. They can't do that. So that's where we are with that. I don't know if the president can actually do it, but I think that he can. So these Congress people asking the education secretary to stand down, that might be futile if people are lobbying the actual president of the United States to do it. The law is clear. The department does not have the legal authority to cancel student loan debt en masse. The letter said, any deviation from Congress's clear intention for student loan balances to be repaid with limited and specific exemptions would be of grave concern. That's in the letter from the Republicans. The Democrats, like Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, they are the ones advocating for up to $50,000 of loan forgiveness, which would eliminate which would eliminate all of the amount owed for many, but not all. Some people owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans. $50,000 would be a start. The lawmakers cited Warren's debt cancellation proposal as an affront to the millions of borrowers, like me, who responsibly repaid their loan balances. And they added the blanket loan forgiveness would be regressive, only benefiting the highest earning individuals. I don't agree with that. Insider previously reported on a study that claimed the opposite, that mass cancellation would be progressive and benefit the lowest earners, displaying a split on not only the legality of cancellation, but its impact as well. Okay, here we go with what I was talking about earlier. The Education and Justice Departments are in the process of reviewing President Biden's legal authority to cancel debt broadly by executive action. And while there is no word yet on where those reviews stand, experts and lawmakers have spoken out on the legality of student debt cancellation, and results have been conflicting, naturally, suggesting that the law is not as clear as the four Republicans state. Skipping down here, while the Biden administration has not commented on what it plans to do with student debt broadly, it has carried out targeted student debt cancellation as and here's where we transition, the $1.7 trillion student debt crisis continues to grow. Focus on that number, $1.7 trillion. Now, what if, we're just fantasizing here, nothing more. What if they said, all right, we forgive it all, or everything that we can, with the exception of the 8% that is held by private institutions. So let's say we get a $1.3 trillion in debt forgiveness for these student loans. What do you think is going to happen when people don't have to pay the student loan debt? Well, because most Americans are financially undisciplined, they're not going to invest it. They're going to spend it, okay? If someone out there has a $300 per month payment, the statistics show that what they're most likely to do is go out and put that money into the consumer economy. Now, for me and you and everybody else here in the Money Changes Everything crew, that's good news, because there are companies out there that are going to benefit from that. It's going to pump potentially over $1 trillion into the economy. And you might, on the one hand, say, well, that's going to add to the tax burden. Yeah, it is. The tax burden that's already astronomical and over $30 trillion, not counting the unfunded liabilities of Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, which takes us into the $200 trillion realm, which is absolutely stupid. So yeah, it will add, if they did forgive this, it would add to a debt that is already out of control and not going to be paid back. You know what I believe, that by the early 2030s, the U.S. dollar will no longer be the world's reserve currency, and probably default on it by that time. So why not? Why not allow these people who have these debts to go ahead and get the loan forgiven, pump the money back into the economy, and let savvy investors like you and me benefit? Okay? It might surprise you to hear me say that, but with regard to this moral argument that they're trying to make with it, first of all, I'm in the clear. I've already satisfied my debt. But look, we're in a realm where the government has shut down the economy, put people out of business, out of work, all right, ended the eviction moratorium, ended unemployment benefits. So I believe that, we have to think like wealthy people do. We have to think like these millionaires up on Capitol Hill. Okay, we have to think about what's going to be best for the economy and what's going to help us profit. Okay, and I'm just being straight up with you. I don't believe there is a moral argument here. I don't think the United States government has no authority to make any moral arguments, all right? Especially not after what we've seen in the last few weeks, okay? With the debacle in Afghanistan, we have no authority to do that whatsoever. And Afghanistan is just one thing. So let's take the morality out of it. The United States uses morality when it's convenient. Let's take that argument out of it and let's think about what is best for us economically as we move toward financial independence and insulate ourselves from what's coming, which is the dependent class, which is 800 million jobs being lost to robotics and AI. Okay, we've got work to do. And student loan debt forgiveness will pump money into the economy, help our investments, and help us reach financial independence a lot sooner. Okay? All right, guys. Let me know how you feel about that in the comments. I'll talk to you soon.